Are we live? I think we're live.
It says live. There's a counter and everything.
Let's go to YouTube and see if there's one live. Yeah, we're live.
Cool.
Beautiful. Let me mute. All right. Perfect. Actually, and the delay is much, much less. Welcome, everyone, to the Ammunation live stream. There we go. We can now see our welcome to the Ammunation. Thank you, Irvin, for joining me tonight. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me. I am sorry about this. Anyone who's going to be watching this, we were a little late, and it's kind of my fault.
No, it's not. It's my fault. It's totally my fault.
I'm like, hey, let's just use StreamYard because it's easier. And of course, working together, we boomered the tech again.
No. It was me. I had one set up that I created through YouTube on my YouTube studio. And then I created one for future through StreamYard. So what that ended up doing was duplicating the stream in my YouTube studio. Foolishly, about 20 minutes before we were supposed to go live, I said, well, I'll need two of these here. I'll delete one of them. Not taking into account that, of course, I'm probably deleting the one that was linked by StreamYard. Anyway, yeah, so tonight, as you can see in the top corner, that top corner, everything's reversed. This stream is powered by StreamYard. And thank you, Irving, for turning me on to StreamYard. It looks pretty cool. Looks very user-friendly. It's good for boomers like me. So, yeah, I'm glad we can do it. But once again, everybody, welcome to the Ammunation. Tonight, we want to discuss a few more things with regards to the Canadian gun ban, the most recent one from the Liberal government that I think was May 1st. May 1st is when they announced it, right? Yeah. Nice May Day present for us gun owners in Canada, which is nice. I'm just going to adjust here a little bit. So, what did we find out most recently? A couple things. Go ahead.
Yes, just something we found out recently. And it turns out you are also a fan of Viva Frei. That orders in council up until this have almost exclusively been used for scheduling and appointments that the parties are allowed to do anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Recess appointments, right? So when Parliament's not in session, they can assign someone to a new ministry or to the ministry or whatever.
Yeah. And this is apparently like a huge abuse of power. So that's what I learned recently. What about you? What's going on?
Yeah, I learned that because I actually went to the government website to look at the orders in council. And I looked through them all, and apart from this one from May 1st, just about everyone is, so-and-so is now, head of such and such a subcommittee on sub-ministry. Stuff like that, right? So, yeah, it's kind of lame that that they would use this. And Viva Frei did a pretty good shakedown of it, basically saying the law is a law because the law is a law, is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And, yeah. I'm a little annoyed, but a couple of other things that came out from the legislation, I don't even call it legislation, the edict that was just recently discovered, because there's a huge list of items on that document that they released to the press. It's, like you said, 1,500 different style of gun, right? Yeah. So one of the things it turned out that they discovered was that an airsoft rifle was included in the mix.
Hold on.
Oh, it's not an airsoft rifle.
A military grade assault style plastic airsoft rifle.
Right. Okay. Yes, that's right. Yeah. But when it comes right down to it, a toy gun.
If I'm not mistaken, it actually has an orange tip.
It probably does. It probably does have an orange tip. But yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. But it's not surprising, given they didn't do their due diligence on this. It was a completely arbitrary list. But yeah, I'm hoping, and I'm sure you're hoping as well, that when Parliament's back in session, that the Conservatives just hammer this home and say, what are you doing? What you did was, unconstitutional. There's going to be a lawsuit, as I think I discussed in my last video. The Canadian Coalition for Firearm Rights is submitting a lawsuit against the federal government, the Liberals, for how they did this, what they did, the logic behind it, the whole bit. So let's hope the Supreme Court, cooler heads prevail or smarter heads prevail, and they reverse this. If the Conservatives and other parties can make hay about it until election time, just keep it in the public consciousness and get people behind their talking points, which I'll admit Conservatives are terrible at doing, then it might be the wedge issue that determines what happens in was it 2023? That's when our next federal election is, right? Oh God, it's a long way away.
Well, 2020 has been so bad that someone said if 2020 had a flavor, it would be orange juice and toothpaste.
Yeah, or baloney dog fart, or something like that. But or was it pepperoni dog fart? I think that's what they called it. There was a bunch of those Lay's potato chips flavors. One of them was orange juice and toothpaste, and then the other one was pepperoni dog fart. And there were a couple of other ones, but dryer lint. But what was the other revelation? I don't know if it was a revelation. You said that Viva Fry actually did the legwork on this, but
I saw the tweet that he did the diligence.
Yeah, he reached out to Black Rifle Coffee Company. I know that, but I don't know if he got confirmation that indeed that was a SKU of theirs. So if you watched my last video, maybe you didn't, but the Black Rifle Coffee Company, which is a coffee company that was founded in the United States by veterans and gun enthusiasts, basically tweeted to Justin Trudeau item 117 on that list, which indicated Black Rifle Company, is it BRC15B, which to me doesn't sound like a model number for a firearm. Maybe it is, but it sounds more like a SKU number or a SKU identifier for coffee beans or something. So he tweeted, this guy from Black Rifle Coffee Company, "Hey Justin, are you saying that Canadians can't have coffee in the country anymore? Are you trying to ban our coffee?" So Viva Fry, of course, tweeted to him, "Hey, I want to talk to you," kind of thing, because I think he'd love to do a video on it, right?
And my question is, though, are you familiar with a manufacturer called Black Rifle?
The Black Rifle Company? No, I know of the Black Rifle Coffee Company.
Yeah. Right. So the thing is, I saw a list showing, I think it was highlighting one of the shotguns that's a waterfowl shotgun. And I think on the list, on that same chunk of the list, was also a 22 rifle bolt action for varmints. But
really?
then I
22?
Yeah. Oh, the what is it called? It's a Mini 14R or something like that.
That's ridiculous. A 22.
The gun you're imagining, that gun, it's a very common varmint rifle.
Yeah.
Is banned.
Because it's black and scary.
I guess.
I should really look more deeply into that list and look up those items and see what I see. Because a lot of these were non-restricted then. If it was a 22,
that's right.
It's a non-restricted.
That's
so
right.
They're moving it. They're not even moving it to restricted first. They're just blanket making it prohibited with a 2-year amnesty.
Right. And I saw that chunk of the list, and I saw Black Rifle, something, whatever it is, BRC 115B.
15B, yeah.
And I was like, no, it's not. I'm not even going to make a joke that they banned that coffee.
Yeah, well, that's my thought, right? There's no way they banned a coffee. But I mean, given that they included an airsoft rifle, and they included the 22 rimfire in their list.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if some twat just Black Rifle. Okay, so, and then they didn't even look into it. They saw a SKU that said Black Rifle Company. They're like, oh, that's got to go on there. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear confirmation from the Black Rifle Coffee Company saying, indeed, this is one of our SKUs, and yes, it's for this, particular brand of coffee bean, or this
This
T-shirt that we
military
sell,
grade
or
assault style
or
coffee bean.
a tumbler coffee cup that we sell, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's
And like
actually a 15-ounce thermos cup.
fuck yeah. No, I can only imagine if it's coffee, how strong is that coffee? Like I I think the Maxwell House Instant is pretty strong. Like I mean,
Yeah.
I would really want to try this coffee.
It's like 380 Winchester caliber coffee, man. Knock you on your ass.
Did you find this thing in the top corner here?
What top thing in the top corner?
Over that away.
Okay.
Private chat, and then there's live comments. So it actually StreamYards even shows you the live comments from your stream. You can't interact from here, but you can read them and talk, but you can't chat.
Okay. 1 second. Let me take a look.
So, hello, Six. How's it going?
Oh, there it is. I see it. Oh, hey, Six. Got to turn in early tonight. Thank you, though. Wasn't a coffee company target as well? Yes, thank you. Yeah. We'll shill this out. Thanks, buddy. Do you want to join in, Six? I can send you an invite. Happy to do it. And I'm on SteamYard, so it's simple to make it split screen 3 ways. That's dead easy. Just click a button.
It does it automatically, and it gives you several options.
Yeah. No shit, eh? Oh, there you go. Let me see if I can get the link for him. And I'll send it to him in Discord. I don't want to put it. I don't want to put it in the public chat.
No. I did that one time.
Everybody. Yeah.
And the thing is, I only had like 50 or 60 subs at the time that I did. Or no, what's the minimum? I had to be 100 and something.
Yeah.
And then literally every single person jumped in. Luckily, everyone was polite enough to say hello and then jump out. So that was fun. But yeah, and I'm just wondering if that ended up on the list, is it because somebody saw the word Black Rifle?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, they saw
someone inside the Trudeau cabinet that is working to make a fool of them and putting things like a waterfowl shotgun and a plastic airsoft rifle,
could be,
and a varmint gun, like a bolt action rifle,
could be.
And also, the way I understand it, that's one of the few rifles that standard comes with a 5-round magazine. So it's not like a long magazine that you have to pin or rivet to keep it at 5 max.
Yeah,
which is the law in Canada.
Well,
it's standard.
Yeah. Typically, rifles will be 5, and handguns will be 10, maximum 10. Even if the magazine was designed to hold, 15 or 16, it'll be pinned to 10. The exception is rimfire cartridges. So now this may have changed with C71, but basically, when I took my course, if the rimfire magazine will hold 26 rounds, you can fire 20. You can have a 26-round magazine. But center fire, they were restricted to 5 and 10 respectively. I may be wrong on that, but that's as I recall. Where is, I got to find 6. Where are you, 6? There you are. Let me send him a message.
Oh, he's going to bed.
He's going to bed. I understand. He's been working like a dog.
Yeah.
I sent him the link anyway. If he wants to pop in, he's free to do so.
And he says he'll go to sleep to our dulcet voices.
Oh, dulcet. What is dulcet? Just like nice? Or is it like a particular tonal?
I think it's soft as well.
Oh, soft, yeah.
Right, like dolce means sweet.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's sweet, yeah.
Sweet. I was watching one of my old videos the other day. It was actually a more recent one, but I was watching it and I closed my eyes. I'm like, man, I sound like Ernie from Sesame Street. I do. I sound like Ernie from Sesame Street.
You know what?
I don't to me, but when I hear myself play back, I sound like Ernie.
Okay, it's just in the last sentence, it sounded like you cranked it up a little bit, like you were doing it on purpose.
On purpose? No. If I want to do Ernie, I could do Ernie. But when I'm not paying attention and when I'm listening to myself,
I
sound like Ernie.
Look, one of the most famous politically active and socially conscious Canadians was partly famous because he sounds like Kermit the Frog. So
That's
don't
right.
knock it.
I should see if I can do a live stream with him, with Jordan B. Peterson. That would be awesome. My channel would explode.
Yeah.
But I should see if I do a live stream with him, and then somebody can like edit it with puppet footage of Ernie and Kermit. That would be funny. But yeah,
That makes me Bert.
Ernie, you got to grow a unibrow. What was?
No, don't worry, it's there. I just eliminated.
Oh, you wax it or you shave it?
Pluck.
You pluck it? Wow,
Yeah.
that's dedication. Oh, but yeah. So with regards to the items on this band, some people have gone on an exhaustive search through it. I haven't. I've only seen a few things here and there. I had no idea there were 22 rimfires in that list, so I'm gonna have to see how many are in there. Because if they put one in there, they probably put other 22 long rifle in there as well. Another thing that I guess this was an amendment that came out like a day after the initial one came out. Guns with a bore diameter of 20 millimeters or greater and have a bore velocity of greater 10,000 joules or greater. So that basically qualifies most 12 gauge shotguns that have a choke, apparently. Now, I was in the market for a 12 gauge, and the one I was looking was a cylinder bore. So it's exclusively for shot or slugs, or actually not exclusively, but you would tend to push slugs through it. Didn't have an interchangeable choke. It was just a basic cylinder bore choke. Had a bore diameter of 18.5 millimeters. So it would be safe, but Firearms Outlet Canada sold out. So I'm going to have to look somewhere else. But I guess there was an old one that was 20 millimeters exactly, like an old one, like we're talking like early 20th century, late 19th century, that is like a breech action single barrel.
Fuck.
And like it's an old gun that people would have been using for duck hunting for years, and who knows how many are still around. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna talk to my buddy about this because he was telling me, oh no, my shotgun, it can't possibly be on the list because it's breech action single round, right? It's the most common weapons for
it's like
hunting.
a basic shotgun, the most basic shotgun you can get, right? But yeah, I mean, if this is an older model, then there's probably hundreds of thousands of them in people's collections at this point. And, I mean, it's ridiculous. Now, that being said, I looked at the joule velocity or the energy velocity of a 12 gauge shotgun. Typically, it's around 4,000 or 5,000 joules.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that most of them would qualify or hit that 10, but it might. I don't know if it's an and or if it's and or what, right? Either way, it's ridiculous because it blankets all of these shotguns. And in their press briefing, they were talking about this isn't for hunters. We're not going to impact hunters. Only these weapons of war that have no business in Canada. Well, they're not weapons of war. They're firearms of sport, which have been used for decades in Canada. These modern sporting rifles, and without any incident, really. I mean, there's of course been incidents, but they're so few and far between in Canada that it's ridiculous that they go to these measures. I mean, I know exactly why they're going to these measures, but yeah, it's frustrating to say the least. And I feel bad for the people out there who do have shotguns and are now everything's sort of up in the air. They don't know where they lie legally. Do they have to turn these ones in? Can they hang on to them? But until Parliament opens up again, there's not going to be any discussion on this. And that's the real issue here, that there was no discussion. They just arbitrarily put it out there. And now apparently a conversation has come out, I don't know if it was transcript or a recording or whatever, of Bill Blair saying we have to act on this now, shortly after the Nova Scotia shooting, remind you. We have to act on this now, given the current situation in the House, like in the House of Commons. We don't have the political capital to let it go through the House, so we have to do it as an order in council. We have to take it, basically don't let the crisis go to waste, right?
Right.
So Yeah, it's for gun owners, it's really frustrating. For people who aren't gun owners, they don't care. I mean, I saw lots of stuff on social media indicating, "Oh, good, it's finally about time we got rid of these terrible weapons," because people don't know, right? They just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And taking the time to educate them, they try and paint you as a nut. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah. And like it's literally every single advancement in technology ever. Of course, it has the potential to be used for evil, malicious purposes. Like,
sure,
a hammer, you can use it to build a house or to crush your neighbor's skull,
yeah,
right? And these are all literally just tools, and they're
yeah,
tools to do a certain job. And yes, I agree, there are certain tools that are basically military only. There's not a lot of other reason to use, say, like the M240, except as a
right,
military application, right?
right. But
But
like fully automatic rifles in Canada have been banned since like 1977. You can't
yeah,
have them. I
yeah,
mean, some people might have been grandfathered if they had them as part of their collection prior to 1977, but it's not something you can buy. You can't even get a license to buy them. So, not like in the United States where you
mhm,
can go through the hoops to get fully automatic firearms. In Canada, there's just no option for it. There's no option to get a prohibited firearm unless you're a collector, and apparently the hoops you gotta run through or go through in Canada to get a prohibited permit are so astronomically high. Like it's so hard to get one, and I think it's one of these things that you got to know somebody high up to get approved to have a license to have a prohibited firearm. But and even then, you can't carry it because carry laws don't exist in
yeah,
Canada. But yeah, I mean, this whole thing has been really egregious and really frustrating for firearms owners. And I was getting depressed about it, and then my doorbell rang today, and the UPS guy showed up, and he said, "Craig," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." And he's like, "Here, this is yours." And he, of course, was social distancing. He didn't hand it to me, but he put it on the ground, and he walked away. I'm like, "What the hell's that?" Open it up. Oh, it's from Ajax. Oh, it's from Firearms Outlet Canada. I finally got, after about 2 months, my Heckler and Koch or
oh,
Heckler and
don't say the
Koch.
model number, don't say the
What?
model
Yeah,
number.
because they'll just add it to the list.
Or in case it's on the list already and we just don't know yet, it
It's
shipped
not.
before the list,
It's
right?
it's a handgun, and as far as I know, there's no handguns on the list, right? So handguns, he's going to leave that up to the municipalities. This is the other thing. Your municipalities are going to be able to decide whether or not handguns are permitted in their municipality. So if you got a gun club in your town, it might be shut down.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm going to go on to our next banner. I implore all viewers to join the CCFR and the CSSA. I'm not being paid to put this out there because they wouldn't pay a guy with 300 odd subscribers to make a plea for them. But basically,
Combined, we have 1,000, Craig.
that's true. Combined, we have 1,000. That's true. So the CCFR is the Canadian Coalition for Firearm Rights. They're the president of that organization, Rod Giltaca. He's got a very active YouTube channel. He does a very active podcast. He's all about basically protecting the rights of firearm owners in Canada. And he announced just earlier this week that the CCFR is going to court with the Canadian government regarding this recent ban that was tabled on or put out there on May 1st. So I'm really hopeful for that. He also, he's hoping to get the other advocacy groups in Canada to basically join forces. The other organization is the CSSA, that's the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. I became a member when I joined my gun club. It's basically included with my membership fees. They're a great organization. They put out a magazine called Caliber every month, and they have lots of great articles in there. But they're worth joining as well because, again, they're another advocacy group for Canadian gun owners. So if you haven't joined and you're a gun owner of either of these organizations, then join. And if you don't own a gun and you side with Irving and myself with regards to these egregious regulations that the Liberal government's putting on, Canadian gun owners, maybe help out as well and just say, hey, I don't own guns, but I think this is heavy-handed. Here's my money. I'll join up. or donate or whatever. But I just wanted to put that out there. Do my good deed for the day.
I just want to take a moment and say hello, Costin. He's going to make fun of me for being from Toronto. And Trollnut, some liberal told me that you don't need a bazooka to go hunting. Like anyone would do that. If you want really fast soup.
That's right. It's spread all over the field. That's where your soup would be. Yeah. Yeah, you don't need a bazooka to go hunting. No, you don't. But you can't get bazookas again anyway. So it's a moot point. Yeah. Hello, Costin. Hello, Trollnut. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining us tonight. I don't know how many people are watching because I can't see that. I guess 9. I could go 9. That's all right. Thank you all for watching.
Yes, thanks for coming, guys.
But yeah, if I could just reiterate, join those organizations. It would be good for everybody if they had more support.
I wanted to ask something. Taking it to court, okay. In Canada, Gerald Butts made it very clear on Twitter that we don't have a right to own firearms in Canada. But at the very least, even at the Supreme Court level, the case could be about that this was non-procedural, and the way they went about doing this is so incorrect that it has to be struck.
Yeah, so that's one of the prongs of the lawsuit, as I understand it. The other prong of the lawsuit is that the list is arbitrary and doesn't make any sense. It's uninformed. It doesn't know anything about what it's proposing to do. It also does
duck hunting guns and single shot rifles and a plastic toy.
Yeah,
it's arbitrary.
It also doesn't address the root cause of the issue. I mean, I don't know how many times non-gun owners have to be told this, but you know what? Criminals don't obey laws. So if you basically say, okay, these things are now banned, it doesn't stop criminals from doing the bad things they're going to do.
My buddy,
if on Facebook, if murder's illegal, why are there still murders? Right? Anyway.
My buddy posted the best thing on Facebook. Someone is calling desperately on the phone, 911. Please help. There's an intruder in my house. They have a gun. And the operator says, ma'am, that's quite impossible. Those have been banned.
Yeah. Can you be sure? I'm not sure. There's no way that's possible. Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous, right? I mean, that's my common tweet when people say we should do this to, ban such and such. I'm like, why don't they just make murder illegal? Then nobody would ever be murdered again. Like as a drug war, is trying to ban drugs, the prohibition of drugs, helped at all? Are there fewer people doing last I checked, there was an opioid epidemic in the U.S. and even in Canada, like out west, there's an opioid epidemic. So, making things illegal doesn't stop their proliferation. If anything, it just makes it harder to track and harder to take care of. Plus, there's the whole adage of, if you needed to defend yourself. Now, that's the problem, though, right? In Canada, we don't have the legal right to defend ourselves with a firearm. As a matter of fact, we're not even expected to use an implement to defend ourselves, regardless of what the power imbalance is. Everything's banned in Canada. Tasers, pepper spray, bear spray. The only thing you use bear spray on is a bear. You can't have any means of protection. Even a baseball bat in your car for the purposes of self-defense is illegal in Canada.
This will at the very least get me stopped and searched.
Yeah.
And this is legal.
Right. What is it? It's just a pocket knife.
Yeah. It's within parameters, and I keep it on me most of the time for work, right?
Yeah.
For jobs around the house and in the yard and shit like that.
Yeah.
And what's that? You're armed. It's like, God, it's a tool, man. How is this different from having a fork or a kitchen knife?
Or a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, which would also get you stopped in Canada, believe it or not.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny? I'll tell you a funny story. I used to visit one year I visited my in-laws in Florida. I had a Swiss Army backpack for my laptop, and I was taking my laptop down there because at the time I was really big into an MMO and I wanted to take it with me. So now the Swiss Army backpack has a spot in it designed for a Swiss Army knife. And I have a couple of those. So I put one in there, not even thinking about it. I totally didn't even think of it. It was in there for months. And then I took it over the border. It went through the X-ray machine and everything. They didn't spot it. It wasn't until I was on my way back that I realized it was in there, and I handed it off to my father-in-law. Say, hang on to this. I don't want to try and board the plane with this. I made it down here with it, but I don't want to, I don't want to risk, being pulled aside because it's in there, and it'll just get thrown away. If it does get confiscated, it'll be thrown away. So yeah, I mean, like, how safe do these people make you feel? The people who are supposed to keep weapons out of the hands of people traveling on planes. I mean, it's a pocket knife, for crying out loud. It's got a 3.5-inch blade. It's not very big, but still, if they could do it with box cutters on 9/11, pocket knife is just as deadly, right? But point is, the idea behind this legislation is Canadians trust your law enforcement to ensure your safety when it's clear they can't. I mean, the shooting in Nova Scotia is clear that they can't. So,
that heroic lady hit that guy with her car, and it didn't pan out.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's you have to be able and allowed to defend yourself. Why is that such a controversial issue in Canada?
Well, the thing is, and it's in our charter too, we have the right to security of person. Now, because it's just a basic blanket statement, the interpretation of it for citizens would be, well, fine, then I'm going to be secure in my person, and I'll take whatever means necessary to be secure in my person. So if that means that I'm going to keep a gun by the nightstand to be secure in my person because I live in a bad neighborhood and I've been broken into 3 times, then that would be your logic behind having that on your nightstand. But the law does not see it that way.
Is it one of those cases where it's worded so broadly that they can narrow it and narrow it and narrow it because of interpretation rather than continue to see it as broadly as possible?
Well, this is it, right? The liberty-minded folks will see it as broadly as possible, and the authoritarian-minded folks will say, no. That doesn't mean you can have a gun to defend yourself. That just means that you shouldn't feel insecure by the actions of other people.
Oh, it's about feelings, right?
Yeah, it's about feelings. That's right. Yeah. So this is my point, I guess, right? You've got the 2 mindsets. You've got the libertarian mindset, the liberty mindset, where, look, I have a right to feel secure in my personhood, to feel secure in my ability, in my life. And if it turns out that I live in a neighborhood, no, I don't, thankfully. I live in a nice suburb where there's very little crime. But I know you live in a shit whole place of Canada. No, I just joking.
No, we'll circle back to that.
I was just messing with you. Apparently, Lethbridge is worse than where you are.
Oh, so, yeah, there's lots of worse places. Don't worry.
But yeah, if you lived in a terrible place, if you lived in Scarborough, right? Scarborough, for people who don't know, we call it Scarborough. It's on the east end of Toronto. It's known for crime. I think it's being gentrified now, but it's known for crime. A lot of break-ins, a lot of drug crime, a lot of gang crime. And if you lived in that area and it was the only place you could afford to live, and your apartment building had been broken into, and a guy next door to you, the apartment next door had been broken into, and people have been attacked, how are you supposed to feel secure in your person? Like, how? Are you supposed to hope that the cops are upping patrols and just hope they happen to be around when somebody decides to break into your house? Or should you take means to protect yourself? I mean, any lock can be broken, any door can be broken. So if you're in that situation, what are you going to do? Are you going to wait 5-10 minutes for cops to show up? In which case they find you, beaten to death or bloodied on the floor, or maybe even shot, because once again, criminals don't obey the law. They don't care that there's a gun ban. If anything, they're like, oh, sweet. The market on these guns that we traffic, they're going to go up. That's great. We're going to be able to sell these for more because they're going to be harder to get.
To quote the Chans, criminals going to crime.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I hope I hope the CCFR and any other advocacy groups that join in the lawsuit, really bone up, do their homework, get it all, all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, and present a solid case. And I hope we see some turnaround on this stupid piece of, I won't even call it legislation. It's not legislation. This edict. But yeah. But again, good news. I mean, as far from all that, I got good news. I got my firearm that I ordered in the mail today. It's pretty. It's so pretty. But now I can't shoot it until the range opens up again. So it's all good.
Worth the wait. Who's this Defelson chap? I liked the Kenny response for that. Our government is actively considering appointing Alberta's own chief firearms officers to replace the CFO appointed by Ottawa. Yeah, Alberta's a really big province, and it has a couple of major metropolitan centers, and then a whole lot of empty space with sparsely populated towns and such, and a lot of goddamn wildlife. Like Alberta is sort of, for lack of a better comparison, it's an oversimplification, obviously. It's Canada's Texas. It's cattle and oil and guns, because you need them. When you have cattle, you attract wolves, coyotes, bears, and you need guns to fend off those predators. There's no other tool that humans have to do. Like, I mean, I guess we could go back to spears, but do we like?
Yeah, wolves don't care about electric fences. Let's jump over them.
Holy shit, that sounds like a Philip K. Dick novel waiting to happen.
Wolves don't care about electric fences. Yes, that would be a good Philip K. Dick
novel. The man's a genius writer. Just so beautiful prose. Cannot write a title for the life of him. I don't fucking get it.
Ender's Game wasn't a bad title. That was Philip K. Dick, right?
One of his better ones, yeah, I guess.
No, I mean, do androids dream of electric sheep? It was supposed to be, esoteric,
but it's a bad title. As titles go, it's bad.
Yeah, but if you called it Blade Runner, then you think it was schlocky pulp.
Yeah, sure.
But, I mean, Kurt Vonnegut had some really awesome books with very goofy titles. Like when you hear,
they were still titles.
Slaughterhouse 5. When you think Slaughterhouse 5, you think, oh, this is going to be like a horror. No, it's about time travel and aliens that look like hands.
No, it's actually about PTSD.
Well,
yeah, no. There's a lot of talk that soldiers who read the book are like, this is exactly what I go through.
Yeah, I know, no doubt.
That idea of being unstuck in time.
Yeah.
That here I am in my current life, and suddenly I'm there again.
Yeah.
And it is that jarring, and it is that weird and alien, and he really, because he was there. Like that's, if you read when you read it, he was in those situations, but he's writing about somebody else. And
it's semi-autobiographical, if I understand. Right?
Yeah. That he talks about, like as he's writing it, you'll read a story about something that's going on here, and this one guy was doing this. That was me. And then he moves on. And it's so Slaughterhouse 5 is really good. It's probably not the best one. I think a lot of people would say Hocus Pocus is the best one.
I was a big fan of Cat's Cradle. I don't know if you ever read Cat's Cradle.
No, I haven't. I've been told it's good. Right along that level, but it's like a gentle slope.
Yeah, but it is
Slaughterhouse 5, Cat's Cradle, and then everything else.
Well, yeah, Breakfast of Champions and a couple of his other. I can't remember all of his his work, but Cat's Cradle is kind of a cool story in that it seems like one story for about 65-70% of it, and then it just goes completely off in a different direction for the last 30-35% of it. And it's like, but it's brilliant. It's really good reading. And you can tell that some elements of it are probably stuff from his own life as well. Just some of the more, disturbing stuff that he probably witnessed and went through. But yeah, we're getting off on a tangent here. But yeah, if you like Kurt Vonnegut, read Kurt Vonnegut. But no, was it? Yeah. Wolves don't care about electric fences. But you're right, Alberta. But the issue with that, what's being suggested in the chat regarding the CFO or putting in place an authority in Alberta is that was basically, you're saying we're seceding and I think that may come down eventually. We're seceding, and we're going to take care of this from now on. Problem is that the law is clear on which part of which level of government controls firearm regulation in Canada.
Yeah.
And it's a federal level thing. Hey, I'm all for it. I think the provinces should be more involved, because there are provinces that, have a completely different gun culture from other provinces. Like people down here in southwestern Ontario, we go to clubs. We don't do, maybe people do hunting and they go out of town to hunt, but it's a lot of like gun clubs, people shooting competitively for sport and for fun. But then you go out into, Eastern Canada or Western Canada, I should say, or Western Ontario, and it's a lot of hunting. It's a lot of people using it for their livelihood and their subsistence and that sort of thing. But so I think it makes sense for provinces to sort of take more control over how they're going to regulate firearms. But I don't know if that's going to happen again without secession, which I'm not opposed to. I don't live in Alberta and I don't live out west, but I would stand behind them if they chose to do it.
I'll tell you this: if that movement gains traction, I'll drive out there and just be there when it happens. Be like, suckers, I seceded.
Yeah, emigrate to Western Canada, if whatever they're going to call themselves. But,
I like Ajax. Just use narwhal tusks for protection, like the guy did on London Bridge.
That whole scene was like, this is a comic book, or this is like a Roger Corman movie or something. Roger Corman, is that his name? The guy who made those schlocky action horror movies back in the 80s.
I don't actually know.
Harvey Corman? I don't know. Harvey Corman.
Now, again, I don't remember correctly. Were the narwhal tusks used in the terrorist attack, or what? Did someone had narwhal tusks on them because they worked for a museum or something?
No, they ran to a museum where one was on exhibit, or they ran to a pub. I think it was in a pub where one was on exhibit, and they grabbed it and they fucking stabbed the guy with it.
Like Shaun of the Dead, where they think that the rifle's just for show, but no, it's totally fucking mounted and loaded.
Yeah. But
Wow.
if the people out west they want to break free, all the power to you. I am 100% behind you. And the wife has friends and family out in Alberta, but I'm not sure if I could convince her to move out that way. She just shook her head, so I guess that's a no.
It's too fucking cold, man. Like,
it's all right. I would sooner move to Nevada or Arizona or Florida. I don't know if I'm going to convince her to do any of those things either. So, she shook her head again. So, that's not going to happen. Anyway,
anywhere that's open carry, like that's my question to Donald Trump.
Yeah,
how much of this do we have to accept in Canada before we can make a legit asylum claim in the United States? Like how many of our liberties?
I think if the lockdown becomes more totalitarian or authoritarian and goes on longer, I have a feeling it's going to end come end of May. Right, the end of May, things are going to start getting back to normal. Our dog park is opening up nearby next Friday. So by the end of May, I think people are going to start getting back to their normal lives. And of course, people are going to be changing the way they do things, and people are going to keep their distance and that sort of thing. But we're looking at it now, and the CFR, CFR, is that what the RF? I don't know. There's an acronym for it, but basically the mortality rate of this is not as high as they initially thought.
No, not at all. I heard some weird statistic that apparently the average age of people killed by COVID-19 or the Wuhan coronavirus, whatever you choose to call it, is higher than the average age of people who die.
Yeah, it's mostly old elderly people with pre-existing, conditions. But the problem is that a lot of the reporting, and I saw a YouTuber today, her channel name is Truth Factory. I think I've talked to her about her before. She's got basically her avatar as a little gray cat. And anyway, And I didn't realize this, but she's Canadian, so that's kind of cool. It'd be cool to have her on at some point. But she's a big channel. She's got quite a few subscribers. But anyway, so she was talking about how, and doctors are reporting this, that they are declaring deaths for COVID-19 even when it's not COVID-19 because they get more money that way, and there's an interest in having, like, if they have an intake of somebody for chest pains, they get so much money. But if they say, oh, it's coronavirus, they get tens of thousands of dollars. And if they have to intubate them and put them on a what do you call it, a ventilator, they get like $40,000. So there's a monetary interest in reporting cases that aren't coronavirus for coronavirus, and they don't care about putting. I mean, a nurse might care, but if a doctor's telling her put a ventilator in there, then she'll do it, and they know how to do it. So no, there's not really much harm or risk of them doing it. It's just unnecessary, but the hospital's getting that much more money. So,
but the problem is that because they've stopped with what they call electives, they're getting less funding for that. And I was just told that one of my sister's old friends from high school, she has breast cancer and she's been going to chemo and all that. And for the past, 6-8 weeks?
Yeah.
Nope.
No chemotherapy.
No room for you to get your chemo. So the hospital is losing the funding for that and needs to find the funding elsewhere to make sure these people can keep their jobs.
Is this person in the States?
No, this is in Toronto.
See, that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, we're supposed to have this awesome socialized healthcare system that should be able to handle these things. But the thing is, the topic of the day is the coronavirus. So of course it's going to be that's going to be their main focus.
Yeah.
But I mean, I didn't really want to get into all that, but I think that it's going to be opening up shortly. And I don't know how you feel about that. Personally, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I think we need to get back to this, not just for, the economic sense of it, but for people's, mental state as well. People are going stir crazy. And I mean, I mentioned in my last video, I've been feeling really punchy lately. Like, not like physically punchy, but I'm just my nerves are on edge, and I feel like picking fights, and I'm not, thankfully, but the depression is kicking up, and I mean, nothing that's unreasonable or nothing that's going to hurt me.
No, but it's going to have an effect, right?
Yeah, but long term, if this keeps going on, it's just going to get worse. So I can't imagine people who are seriously suffering from, mental health issues. They're having a much harder time of it. So,
my dude, I'm a person that chooses to stay in most of the time. There was a period in my life that I went 3 months without visiting another person or having a person over to my house. And I didn't go out. I didn't go to places. That's normal for me. When I'm being told you can't, everything's shut down, I'm like that already, and it bugs me. It bugs the hell out of me. I dislike being told what to do to such a degree.
Well, especially when you look at it and step back for a moment and you think about the logic of it. You're like, okay, does this make a lot of sense?
It's not quarantine. It's house arrest. Quarantine is for sick people. You keep the sick people away. You quarantine them.
Right.
When we're healthy people that don't have this, and we're being told stay in your house, that's something different.
Yeah, but their logic is, well, you don't know if you're sick because you could be asymptomatic. Well, then I'm not sick. If I'm asymptomatic, I might be carrying the virus, but I'm not sick, which means I'm not going to be coughing. So I'm not going to be as much of a spreader, especially if I, put on gloves and I don't, lick bottles in the supermarket. But, again, this Truth Factory channel, she made a point. So one, they know that flu in wintertime spreads through housing complexes, like apartment buildings, through ventilation ducts. So what do you do when people are sick? Well, let's lock them all in their houses. And then the reason that New York is having such huge cases is because everybody's staying inside, and it's all recycled air, like on an airplane.
Right.
And the virus can travel through the ventilation ducts. And so that's why they have so many cases. But And then what's happening is, okay, so once a week, one person will go out and grab groceries. So that person goes out after, sitting stewing in their own germs for a week, and they're spreading it out to everyone else, right? So it doesn't seem to be like logical measures. Whereas you've got Sweden, all right, where they didn't do any lockdowns, they didn't shut down the economy. They just said, hey, people, keep 2 meters away, cough into your sleeve, and be mindful, wash your hands more regularly than you normally would, because there's this virus and we're not too sure what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a mortality rate no different than any other.
It's worse than some, no better. No.
It's roughly around the same. It's roughly around the same. I mean,
something weird about Sweden. There was no way in hell they could afford that. They've taken in, again, this is a side issue, sorry. They've taken in way too many refugees over the past 10, 15, 20 years.
Oh.
There's too many people on their welfare system.
Right.
In their small country of, 10 and a half, 11 million people.
Yeah, thereabouts.
1.5 million of them are on welfare. They cannot stop working. Everything will fall apart immediately.
That's just it. They did the math and they said, look, the idea of shutting down is a non-starter because our economy can't take it.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, if you look at that, and then Norway, which is another nation, roughly the same population, Nordic country, same latitude, that kind of thing. They did do the economic, closing up, and they have roughly the same cases and the same death rate, the same mortality rate as Sweden. So, what did that help them with, apart from make people miserable and put people out of work? And so I'm inclined to think this was handled poorly from the get-go by all parties involved, because of media panic and an agenda put forward by people who want to see things move in a specific direction, right? Which comes down to a global response, global government. Like when you hear guys like Bill Gates talking about, you're going to need an ID or a digital signature that proves that you've been vaccinated or that you're healthy, like. And he's the kind of guy who's advocating for cutting the population by 15%, the world population. So I mean, and people are trying to make him out to be like he's this great, wonderful person. I don't think he's a bad person, but I think his view of things is a little skewed, because he's been sitting in this elite ivory tower for so long, and he thinks he knows best for the entire planet, which is the problem of the globalists, right? They think they know what is best for the entire planet. And they don't trust people to make decisions for themselves. They don't trust a national government or a local government to decide how they're going to do things. But which circles back to the idea of Alberta deciding how they're going to manage gun laws and gun registration in Canada.
Absolutely, and like circling back from global to Alberta, it keeps winding down, right, to the best possible decision is not the one that is attributed to some greater good, because that's not really a thing you can know, right? I don't want to get too deep into that concept, but I don't want to rely on another person. I don't like that idea that I'm at the mercy of somebody else doing their job and doing it correctly and doing it well. Like police, right? I'd rather be able to handle my own thing myself at the time, rather than make a phone call and wait patiently for someone to show up and be a hero. Also, I don't want to do it for somebody else. I can't be arsed to do it for somebody else, right? So
right.
Why would I expect somebody else to do it for me?
Yeah. This is it. I mean, people are generally self-interested. We cooperate because there's a personal benefit to cooperating. That's why we live in cities. It's why we invest in infrastructure and things like that. But we do it because there's a benefit to us. We don't do it out of the kindness of our hearts. And the idea that you can rely on somebody to do those things, like protect you, like for instance, police officers, whatever, because they're somehow better equipped for it. They are in terms of their equipment and possibly their training, but they can't be where the problem is all the time, right?
Exactly.
And in many cases, they're the cause of a lot of the problems, as is what happened with that poor stormtrooper being taken down by the evil empire. Where was this? Was this in Ontario, or was
Alberta.
this? Oh, was it Alberta? Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the city, but it's a small city that is number 15 on the most crime list now.
Lethbridge.
There you go.
Yeah, Lethbridge. Yeah. So if anybody's not familiar with this, it happened earlier this week. It was May the 4th. It actually happened on May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. And this girl, went out in the street, and I think she might have been there as a promotion for like
She
a
was
pizza place.
working for the comic book shop.
Oh, it was a
outside.
comic book shop.
Yes.
Was the comic book shop open in Lethbridge?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. I guess they didn't
I
have
don't know if he opened illegally or what, but he opened. He hired the 19-year-old girl to dress as the stormtrooper.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And as I understand it, a couple of people called and said, "Hey, there's someone on the street with a gun, dressed as a stormtrooper." And the cops rolled up, told her to, drop the gun. She put it down on the ground. Get on the ground, and she started crying. She started freaking out. Right? You can in the video footage, you can hear her crying from like across the street.
The guy's like 100 feet away.
Yeah. And so at that point, the cops, of which there are 3 now, standing with their guns drawn, should have realized, okay, wait a second, something's not right here. And realize, okay, it's just a prop gun, especially when they see it on the ground 3 feet from themselves, and they realize it's clearly a prop. Now, that being said, and Aviva Fry pointed this out, the gun that was used in the movies and the Stormtrooper gun is based on an actual firearm.
Mm-hmm.
But it's modified to look like a space gun, right? But if you're not familiar with the movies and you're not familiar with guns, all you see is a black thing that has a grip and has a long part, and it looks like something bad could come out of the end of it. So I understand the people calling saying, "Hey, I'm a little concerned here. I don't know if that gun's real or not, or what's going on." But there's a person out there. Now they could have just been stupid busybodies trying to cause trouble, but the cops should have known better when they got out there.
I would assume that the busybody idea is the case, because there's no way that you live in that neighborhood or frequent that neighborhood and don't know that is a comic shop, and that the stormtrooper standing outside the comic shop is obviously promotional. And what's really, really bugs me is they're yelling at her to get down on the ground. She's literally on her knees. Okay. Now, again, if you've ever done cosplay and maybe worn a helmet or some sort of headgear, sometimes it can be hard to hear.
Especially if you're crying.
You are sobbing uncontrollably inside your helmet. So when they're telling her, get down on your belly, she doesn't really hear them. She's just crying.
Yeah.
And the owner of the shop comes outside and starts saying to the cops, it's a plastic gun. It's a toy. And they just start yelling at him to get back inside.
Yeah, no, he doesn't have to get back inside. He can stay outside, and he can record them, and he can. I mean, if they ask him to move back because he's getting too close, and he doesn't, then I think they've got cause to arrest or detain him or whatever. But yeah, he was at the door of his shop, which was like 100 feet away, and they're yelling, "Get back inside!" Oh, fuck you! Leave my employee alone.
Address your chat. These guys are awesome.
Oh, okay. What am I chat saying here? Sorry. You guys should have banned Mounties. Gase is just a modern eugenicist. Yeah, that's probably true. But she had an AR-14 blaster variant. Oh, yeah, that's the one Joe Biden warned us about. When seconds count, the police are minutes away. It's true. Awful hell where I live, it could be up to 2 hours for a municipal tyrant to show up. And Pox Talk has banned Star Wars from Canada. Problem solved. No, we love our Star Wars. I went all the way to Florida to get a lightsaber, goddammit. I'm not getting rid of my Star Wars. But yeah, so it was a sad state of affairs to watch. The fact that they reacted the way they did, and they didn't have the presence of mind to realize, okay, this is obviously not a threat.
The plastic gun was away from her. She's on her belly. She's crying.
Yeah.
They still put a knee in her back and cuffed her.
Well, they got their procedures to follow, right? So,
man, that's...
yeah. It was stupid. It was
I think Viva Fry actually touched on this, that it should be something like that they should have spoken to her rather than arrested her.
right. That's true, right? But again, this
It
comes down to, can you? These are the people you're asked to trust with your safety. Now, what if, I mean, stressful situation. What if one of the cops thought it was a real gun? She didn't react quickly enough to put it down on the ground, and
oh
they
yeah.
thought she was going to raise it.
Oh, I don't want to
They
think
could
about
have.
that.
A cop is just as stupid and just as prone to panic as anybody else. Could have shot at her, and stormtrooper armor doesn't protect against bullets, so it's the shittiest armor in the
If
galaxy.
you've ever watched those movies, it doesn't protect against anything.
I know, right? I mean, it clearly looks like plastic because it's plastic. It's called plasteel, but in the universe, but it's plastic. It's garbage. But the whole point is like I don't want to
Can you
trust.
imagine that though? Like, try and put yourself in that position to be a 19-year-old person. Be a 19-year-old girl. This is your first job. Eh, Your university cut off the year. You don't get this year. You need money now. And suddenly someone offers a job because guess what? Everywhere else is furloughed. And the owner of the comic shop says, you can dress up as a stormtrooper. I don't even know what that is. And you go ahead and do it because you're just trying to have a job and do something.
Yeah.
And then the cops are there.
Yeah.
And they're telling you to put down your what weapon? Put down what weapon? This is a plastic toy.
Right.
Like just try to imagine how you would feel. It's fucking insane, and I can't imagine. Like, Lethbridge, I'm sorry, you little shits, you got nothing on Rexdale. Got Lethbridge compared to Toronto, they might be worse by per capita.
Yeah.
Compare Lethbridge to a place called Rexdale, because you mentioned Scarborough and the crime rate out there. Scarborough used to be a city before it was incorporated into the Toronto megacity.
Yeah.
When you go into Scarborough and someone gives you a hard time and you're like, back off, man, I'm from Rexdale. They're like, okay. They let it slide.
Shit.
Now, I just want to mention that I am from a small pocket of Rexdale that is actually like a mildly affluent, mostly white area.
Etobicoke North, right?
Etobicoke North? What?
I worked in Etobicoke at one point.
Yeah, no, it's not that bad, right? There is a chunk of Etobicoke North called Rexdale, and farther north, like Mount Olive and Smithfield. But yeah, it basically on the other side of the river, which is a block from me, there's gunshots every night.
Yeah.
Cops are called every 3 days, but there's gunshots every night.
Wasn't there a recent shooting in Toronto?
That's a question you can ask any day, and it is correct. Yes, there was.
No, like it was just the other day. There was 2 people were killed in another shooting.
Yeah, like literally the day after the gun ban.
Right. I guess they didn't get the memo that the guns were banned.
No, of course not.
But I guarantee you it was probably handguns, because that's the majority of homicides with regards to firearms are handguns. More people in the United States are killed by hammers than by rifles.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But anyway.
But the government that put this particular gun ban into place is the same government that reduced sentences for illegal gun possession, illegal gun trafficking, and illegal gun use in the commission of a crime. And then they decided it's totally okay to go after the law-abiding citizens that own guns. And it's just so ass fucking backwards. I literally can't even.
Yeah, well, this is it. This is also the liberal mindset, right? So if a guy's involved in crime, he's like a career criminal, he deals in drugs or he's part of a gang or whatever, He's a victim of circumstance, right? So you can't be harsh with him
The
because
judge pleaded
we're
that
his
the
life
guy at
different.
the beach with the gun in his fucking bag. The judge pleaded him down like it was all done. It was over, and the judge decided, no, because of your circumstance, I'm going to give you a lighter sentence than the law prescribes.
Right, because you don't benefit from the privilege that other people, those guys who belong to a gun club in Burlington or belong to a gun club in some suburb, they have privilege. So they're the ones who need to have their privilege checked by the government, and we're going to take away their firearms, even though they've never broken the law. Yeah, you broke the law, okay, but your dad's was been out in prison, your entire life. Your mom's a junkie and resorts to prostitution from time to time. You've had it pretty rough. We'll go easy on you. Wait, your kids and you can't be rollerblading in that parking lot. We're locking you up. You, sir, we're worried about you getting sick from coronavirus. We're going to let you out. This is the mentality that we have right now. It's insane.
I mean, it's the only thing I've seen that's consistent on that far left spectrum of the way things work. What Jordan Peterson, we talked about him a little earlier.
Yeah.
Talks about postmodernists.
Yeah.
That this is your station in life, that you were brought up this way, and so you can't help yourself. So we're going to be kinder to you.
That's called the soft bigotry of low expectations.
Right. Where the hard bigotry of higher expectations is put on the law-abiding citizens that come from, it literally doesn't have to do with wealth. It has to do with being white, because out in Alberta, there's a lot of white people that work on farms and use guns, and they're not affluent. Like, they're not wealthy, and they just, but you're white, so you're better off.
Yeah, you've benefited from your privilege, your unearned privilege.
Yeah.
It's asinine. It's ridiculous.
That's the only place I've seen them be consistent.
Well, that brings us to our next topic.
Okay.
What happened in I want to say Oklahoma? Is it Oklahoma?
No.
Or Kentucky? Where the hell was it? In the United States.
You still there? Is it in Kentucky? Hell no.
Ahmaud Arbery. I want to say Kentucky. Ahmaud Arbery.
It's somewhere in Trump's America.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the red states. I believe it was Kentucky. White privilege, tired argument. Yes, it is a tired argument. I believe it was in Kentucky, but if I'm wrong, correct me in the chat. So you've obviously now heard about this event that happened in February, but it only is now gaining traction in the news cycle because it fits the narrative perfectly. A couple of good old boys in a white pickup truck shoot a poor unarmed black man who was just jogging in a neighborhood. It was in Georgia. My mistake, Georgia. I apologize. And so the footage of him being shot and the altercation has come out. And of course, the narrative has come out that these two good old boys in a pickup truck who had no business hunting down this poor black man, and it was a modern day lynching, and they shot him. The actual truth of the entire situation is slightly different. But and if you've watched the subsequent video that's come out, you realize that this guy was a suspect, or was, seen going into a domicile that was not his own, that was under construction, and then running and down the street after leaving.
And his aunt or his mom confirmed that was him in the footage committing the robbery. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a robbery. What he did was basically he went into a house under construction. Burglary. He looked around. Okay. And then he left out the front door, and then he started running. I don't know if he took anything. I have no idea. Point is, he wasn't supposed to be there, but that doesn't excuse what the two guys in the truck did.
Okay, I get it. They were overzealous, but apparently, according to Georgia law, it is 100% legal to perform a citizen's arrest at gunpoint.
Right.
So, as far as I know,
But did they witness him committing? Like, you have to witness him, or did they hear
don't.
about it? From the footage that I've seen, it looks like they might have been neighbors to the house under construction, so they may
Right.
have seen him actually exit. I don't know, but I don't know. My thought is,
Your chat's getting rough, dude.
wow, Greater Ajax, man, nog jog. So here are the things. Okay, so the timeline of events. This guy jogging through the neighborhood as it was characterized, sees this garage door wide open. Doesn't look like it's even put in yet, installed. He stops his jog and decides to go in through the garage door. A few minutes later, or actually around the same time, I guess a guy across the road on his own property sees this happen. He calls 911 and says, "Hey, I think there's a burglary going on across the road." 911 says, "Okay, blah, blah, blah." He comes out. He probably yells out to the neighbor who owns the white pickup truck and says, "Hey, there's somebody in that house next door." And so when this Arbery guy comes out, they give chase in their truck, and then they block the road. And then the footage that has caused the huge uproar, because everybody saw that footage, is them blocking the road so he can't progress, him confronting them, and then I guess they confronted him first, but he goes at one point for one of the guy's shotguns, and the guy gets shot. That's what happened. So
Yeah. And I've watched the video a few times now. And these guys are talking about the Timberlands. He's in Timberlands and those boots.
Oh, the jean shorts and the boots. Yeah.
The kind of boot that's not a jogging boot, and the shorts. You ever been for a jog? You don't go for a jog in
denim shorts. No.
Yeah.
No, but you know what? Giving the guy the benefit of the doubt. Go ahead.
There's two dudes in a truck in front of you.
Yeah.
One guy standing in the bed brandishing his weapon. Is the first thing you're going to do while you're on a jog and they start yelling at you to get on the ground is going to be to swerve round the passenger side and go at the man at the front of the truck? Or are you going to dip as far as you can out into the yards? Because there's a lot of trees. There's a lot of land there. Yep. This guy did not do anything defensive. He didn't do anything compliant. Right.
No, the argument would be made that he's not. Sir, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, this. If he's just on a jog, this is still a jogger that attacked a man with a gun, as far as I can see from this video.
Yeah. Well, this is my point, right? Like, I've been held up at gunpoint, personally. Two guys stormed into the place where I was working, 2:00 in the morning. Both, at least one of them was brandishing a gun, but I'm sure they both had guns. Pointed at me. I didn't even think about it. My hands instinctively went up. They just went up. I didn't even think about it. They led me around to the side place where I was away from the windows, and they put me on the ground and they tied me up. Anyway, I didn't think once to try and grab the gun from the guy. I didn't even know if it was real. I thought it might even be fake. But I'm not going to try and find out. And I don't know. I mean, again, stressful situations. You don't know what your mind's going through in stressful situation. He's a black man in Georgia being confronted by two white guys in a pickup truck. I'm sure that race and the difference, the alienation between those two groups probably played into his mindset in some way.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, if you go and try and grab somebody's gun when they're holding it on you, you're probably going to get shot. Now, it was idiocy on everybody's part. If I were the guys who said, "Hey, somebody broke into our neighbor's house," there he goes running down the street, I might get into my vehicle and follow, but I'd follow at a safe distance. I certainly wouldn't try and stop them, because that's not my job. Even if I am a retired cop, it's not my job. It's been called in by the neighbor. I know that. I can get on the phone and say, hey, about that guy who was on the Scintilla Drive or whatever it was, I see he's running down this now. I'm following him about 100 meters back. I'm in a white pickup truck. And then they might even instruct you, stop following him, sir. We've got people on the way. Right? Or you can continue to follow him. I don't know. But you can follow him as far as he wants to run. I mean, he's on foot.
Yeah.
Right? So there was no need for them to try and intercede and do that. Now, that's kind of contradictory because I don't want to rely on the cops to help me out in a bad situation. But this isn't the same because you're not in the bad situation. You're creating a bad situation.
Okay. I also want to do my part. And conversely, I'm not opposed to the idea of a police force. So if I can work with them and aid them, then I will do that too. And I actually, so out and about one evening, like over a decade ago, taxi cabs have that light on the back.
Yep.
Say if this light is flashing, call the police.
911. Yeah.
Yeah. The light was flashing, so we called the police, and we were on the line, and we're like, "Look, explain the situation. I don't know what's up." And they said, "Okay, stop following. We have the cab number." I was like, "I'm not comfortable with that. I'm going to continue to follow, and I'm going to ask you to call me back." And so I followed at a distance, and they called me back. The light went off just before my phone rang, and they were like, "Yeah, no, it was an accident. He bumped the thing with his knee. It's over." So
yeah,
that's libertarian working with the government, right?
Right. No, I'm not saying I don't want a police force. Far from it.
Yeah, no,
but I want them
not anarchist.
Right. But here's the thing. I don't want them arresting people for skateboarding in a fucking parking lot. I want them to show up when there's an actual conflict and do their best to minimize it and to mitigate it.
Something that themselves cannot handle.
What's that?
Something the citizens cannot handle.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
They should intercede when I have a dispute with somebody where I've been wronged, and I say, okay, I'm calling the cops because you stole my bike. Right? Call the cops. This guy stole my bike. I know where he lives. He went down there, blah, 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 blah. It's a such and such, a Huffy, whatever. That's when I want the cops to intervene. Or this guy just robbed this, convenience store. He looked like this. That's when I want the cops to go intervene. If I were in a convenience store and someone was holding it up, and let's say, for the sake of argument, we have carry laws in Canada, and I happen to be armed at the time, I would think long and hard before I pulled my gun and tried to stop him. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I want to do right, but I would be worried about making the situation worse.
Of course. And
I would hope that the guy behind the counter has a gun, and he could protect himself in the store himself. But I might draw it, take cover, and yell at the guy, say, I got you covered. I'll shoot you if you don't get out of here right now, or you don't drop your gun or whatever." But yeah, it's
like a normal person, you don't want to hurt or kill another person.
Right. But I will defend myself.
Robbed, right?
What's that?
You don't want other people to be robbed.
No, I don't want other people to be robbed.
Yeah.
I go to this convenience store all the time. I don't want the price of chips going up. Because that's what will happen. The price of chips are going to go up.
That's the most libertarian thing you've said in my entire career with you. Oh dear. Oh.
Because the price of chips are going to go up, and they're expensive already. So no, it's not that. I don't want anybody to be robbed. Yeah. I've been robbed. I don't want to see someone get robbed. But I mean, again, it's like it's one of these situations where you got to think long and hard, and you don't have time to think long and hard about whether you're going to do it. But if the guy looks like he's erratic and it looks like he could go off, maybe the best situation in that case, or best option in that case, is to draw a firearm and is to either stop him or tell him you're going to stop him and hope he stops. Well, because it might end up being in a shootout. You might end up in a shootout, and just hope your aim's better. What's that?
Have we talked about Count Dankula in the past couple of streams?
I don't know why. No, I don't think so. But why?
He went to the U.S.
Yeah.
a while ago
Yeah.
and
Okay.
took a picture in a convenience store.
Yes, we did talk about this. Yeah.
Them, 4 or 5 people, and every one of them
How to
had
side
a
him.
sidearm
Right.
on their hip. And he posted it to social media, and Scottish friends said, "Oh my God, weren't you terrified?" And he said, "I've never felt safer in my life."
Well, that's true though, right? Because I mean, there's a. Go ahead. Sorry, finish what you're saying.
The best stories come out of Texas, right?
Yeah.
That, of course, not a single person would ever dare to rob that store at that moment.
No.
And I saw a story that someone in Texas tried to rob a convenience store at gunpoint. The robber was shot not only by the proprietor, but by every customer in the store.
Yeah. Well, that's like that shooting in church too, right?
Yeah.
There's like what 7 or 8 armed people in there, and the guy was there was like 2 shots fired,
Mm-hmm.
and the assailant was the one who ended
Shot
up.
by the shooter, and
Yeah.
then the one that put him down.
Yeah. An armed society is a polite society, as they say, right?
Yeah, no, and that was a joke that a person of color, a black guy, went to Texas and thought that he would be met with some kind of resistance or rudeness, and
Yeah.
everyone was so polite. He was so amazed by it
Yeah.
that this comedian mentioned it to someone, said, "Oh, it's everyone's so polite."
Yeah.
And the person he said it to said with a smile, "Oh, of course we are. Everyone has a gun."
Yeah. You don't want to piss the wrong person off.
Being that you want to de-escalate everything. You want to be nice and kind because you don't want anything to get out of hand ever.
Right.
Because everyone has a gun.
Yep.
And it makes polite society.
It's true. I mean, people talk about the Wild West. I think we mentioned this too, but people talk about the Wild West and all the gun shootings and stuff. I mean, that's all been glamorized for Hollywood, but the fact of the matter is it was a pretty genteel time.
Mhm.
There were lots of people who, some fights would break out, but there weren't as many people dying over, cheating at cards as you might think based on what the movies tell you.
Yeah.
But I mean, my thought on the whole Arbery case though is basically there's only one person in that whole situation who acted without any idiocy, and that was the guy who called 911 when he saw someone go into another person's property.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, it was stupid for the guys to follow him in the truck, but it could be understandable. But I mean, I guess they had a legitimate concern, but where they took it to was stupid. Where this Arbery guy took it to by trying to take the gun off the guy was stupid. He'd still be alive if he just instinctively put his hands up and said, "Whoa, what's going on? I'm just jogging, man."
Like, I'm sorry. Run away. Or like, if you don't want to comply, if 2 dudes with guns come out of their truck and are like, "Get down on the ground." If you're not going to get on the ground, the last thing you're going to do is run towards them.
Yeah.
You're going to run away.
Well, no, actually, the last thing he did was try and get the gun.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
He
You don't
swerved around the stopped truck.
Yeah.
And then we don't see from that phone camera angle.
No. But
What
you do see him trying to grab the gun.
Off. But clearly, he veered one way, came around the truck, and then they're on the other side of the truck again,
fighting for the gun
and struggling. Yeah, and the gun has gone off already. And according to the police report, apparently, he has a shot through the hand. So he reached for that gun and put his hand on the muzzle on the barrel.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where the case goes. I have a feeling it's going to result in manslaughter charges for the two men. Whether or not they're going to actually serve time, I don't know.
See, I think
it might come down to them being being acquitted, but with a strong statement from the judge saying what you did here, but for your actions, that guy would still be alive. And what was lost, maybe a pack of nails or a tool that might have been stolen from the house. But the point is, they acted overzealously. They could have followed him from a safe distance. They could have just said, "Oh, did you call the cops? Okay, cool. We'll let them handle it." That's what they could have done. He might have gotten away, but again, what would he have gotten away with?
Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Apparently, as far as I understand, if he was robbing a house, or if he had entered the house illegally, at that point, they were acting within their rights in the state of Georgia.
I don't know, because citizen's arrest is typically for felony, right? And there's a lawyer who was talking about this. Is like, if you witness somebody going into a house under construction, they might get charged with a misdemeanor trespass, right? If they stole something, then it could be considered a felony, right? But
that sounds weird to me, because that means that the expectation is on the person trying to, exercise a citizen's arrest, that they understand the difference between felony and misdemeanor.
Right. Well, I guess, this thing is a serious crime. So an armed robbery would be a felony, right? But
right. No.
And that guy's clearly dangerous, so you've almost got an obligation to intercede.
Because you can make a citizen's arrest in Canada for jaywalking.
Really?
Yeah, but we're not armed. So basically, the idea is put your hand on their shoulder and say, "This is a citizen's arrest. Now you must wait for the police, or we're in a fight." Yeah.
Go fuck yourself. Walk away.
In Georgia, you know that this is a crime.
Yes.
Felony, misdemeanor doesn't matter.
Right. Burglary is a crime, but I don't know if burglary is considered a felony.
But you're within your rights at that point to hold them at gunpoint and make a citizen's arrest.
I guess it comes down to, when you think it's appropriate to brandish a firearm to stop a person who's committed a crime or is in the process of committing a crime. For me, it'd be something like armed robbery. I think that'd be a reasonable time to try and intercede. Going to the house, I would yell at the guy, say, "Get the fuck out! This isn't your house." And
no, for sure. Okay, so you know who Jonathan Yaniv is, right?
You mean Jessica Yaniv? Don't dead name her, man.
No. This is Jonathan is still the legal name.
Oh, never legally changed the name. Okay,
that's right. Who came at Menzies?
Yeah, I saw that.
Right, literally assaulted Menzies.
Yeah.
If you walked up behind Menzies or walked up aside behind Yaniv, kicked her legs out from under her.
Yeah.
You're within your rights in Canada.
And then held her on the ground and said, "I'm placing you under arrest for assault."
Whatever physical level she is already achieved, you can match that. So she swings her cane at Menzies, free reign to just fucking pummel her.
Well, I just hope the guy turns off his camera before you beat her into a.
No, but you know what I mean. Like
you can
ankles and bring her down.
Bring her down and hold her arms back.
Yeah, hold her roughly.
Yeah, and speak moistly. Listen, I'm placing you under citizen's arrest. Spitting all over the back of her neck, his neck.
Yeah,
anyway.
Totally doable. Yeah.
Well, she was leaving the court, right? Because she showed off on Blair White's live stream that she had like a stun gun, which are illegal in Canada.
Stupidly.
Again, that's stupid too.
Weird place that I agree with Jonathan Yaniv, right?
Yeah. You should be able to have a stun gun.
Yeah.
You should. You know what? There's you ever watch what the hell is it? I can't remember the name of the channel, but there's a guy who he does magic and stuff. And occasionally him and his brother, they test out these products. And there's a gun that looks like a real gun, but it shoots capsaicin pepper balls. It's called the salt gun, right? And these things, they break open, and even if they break open near you, you're like debilitated with tears and runny nose and stuff. It's really cool. And I watched them demonstrate. I'm like, I would much rather have that in my house than a shotgun or a 9mm or whatever, because I'm not interested in killing anybody. I'm interested in getting them out of my house, and I think that will be effective. And I know it's not going to hurt me, right? It might make my house stink like pepper for a while, but it's not going to hurt me. It's not going to destroy my property if I, like blowing off buckshot in my house. So yeah, I'd rather have something like that with a flashlight attachment on it. So if they came in the middle of the night, I could shoot it. But illegal in Canada. You can't have one.
That's dumb. Also, I doubt that would stop me from robbing you. It would just make me hungry.
It's pretty intense the way these guys were reacting to it. It was like the guy even stood behind a wooden barrier, and it went off hitting the wooden barrier. But because he was close enough to it, and the cloud spread over the wooden barrier, he was crying and wheezing. He's like, "Oh, this is terrible."
No, I don't know.
He might have been playing it up. He might have been playing it up for the video. But
no. Even if he's not, you ever watch that show Hot Ones on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have their sauce. It's nice.
Yeah, but there's
it's fairly hot.
Yeah, but
it's not. It's not what they say it is.
Yeah, but you're not shooting. You're not shooting it at a plate of food. You're seasoning your dish. This is designed as something that's supposed to stop people.
No. Go ahead. Spray it at me. Let's see how much it slows me down.
Salt guns are CO2 powered, not reliable at all. Yeah, I know it's CO2 powered, and they leak over time. But until you break the seal,
I am so spicy. I've touched my eyes and my goddamn penis. There is nothing that's going to slow me down in terms of spicy.
Well, I think that has to do with your ethnicity as well. You probably have it in your genes.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I won't discount that, but it's not for everyone, and it's not a guarantee. You want to stop a person? Put them down.
Yeah, if you had to. But again, legally, and Ray D makes mention of this, when it gets to the point of home invasion shootings being deemed as unlawful, rights are over. Yeah, again, we don't have the rights here in Canada. We don't have the right for self-defense. We don't even really have property rights in Canada when it comes right down to it. Property rights are not really guaranteed in Canada.
I've said this before. We don't have rights in Canada. If you look at our charter,
we have permissions.
Yes, there are things that are not guaranteed, like the Constitution of the United States. There are things that are granted by the government, and Section 2 of our charter is our rights and freedoms. Section 1 is the ability of our government to limit or suspend those rights and freedoms. And that's an appendage of being ruled by a monarchy as a colony from hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
That's not something that we should still abide. We should just eliminate that shit. We need a properly new constitution.
I agree.
Yeah.
But here's the issue. As I see more and more of the world moving towards a more authoritarian sort of paradigm, there's going to be pushback, of course, but do you think it'll ever get to the point where countries do throw out their existing charters and constitutions and replace them? Now, the funny thing is that Chile, they're on the precipice of ratifying a new constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Chile, where my homeboy Augusto Pinochet once resided, and got rid of the evil godless communists. So a lot of measures that he put in under his government, they're now trying to undo, and they're trying to make it much more socialist in Chile, even though they went through all that before.
And they saw what happened to Venezuela recently.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going full socialist, but basically they want to have, certain things guaranteed to people in terms of, housing and medical and education and that sort of thing. So they want to go, around the Nordic socialism or Canadian socialism. But the issue is where it ends up. And my hope is that the culture war that we're going through right now is basically one of populist versus the neoliberal mindset of, government is the greatest good and can do all good for all people if it were only big enough, which is what most people are pushing for, or a lot of people are pushing for. And then the pushback is no, the nation state is best and people are best to govern their own lives. Will we get to a point if that we'll see, secession of provinces or the adoption of more liberty-minded constitutions and charters and that sort of thing? I gotta hope so at some point, but the problem is it never comes as a matter of like a grassroots sort of political movement. It's always after bloodshed, and I don't want to get to the bloodshed part of it. That's my concern. I don't want there to be a civil war. I don't want there to be a revolution.
Again, something you have mentioned, hackneyed cliches, that the tree of liberty needs to be watered with the blood of patriots
and tyrants.
Yeah. And it's sad that apparently that has to be true. You know why? Because the richer we get, the more we take care of the weakest of society. And it's not that I don't think they deserve to live. I just think that when we let too many of these weak-minded people, not weak capable, they're totally capable. They've just decided that that's not good.
Well, yeah, because freedom requires responsibility, right? It requires work, and it's hard. It's not easy to say, I want to do this, and not only do I want to do this for me, but I want this to be the way for you as well. I want to be able to live my life freely, but I also want my neighbor to live his life freely, right? It's a difference between a libertarian and a libertine, right? The libertine wants pot legalized for his own consumption, but he thinks that crackheads and heroin addicts are the scum of the earth, right? So yeah, I mean, that's why it ends up, being hard. It ends up ending in violence. Like it goes back to there's that little poem or parable or whatever, where basically hard times create strong men, strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at, right? That's basically people saying, you know what? It's too much trouble to fight for my own freedom. I just want to be safe. And so I'm willing to give up my freedom for safety, security, and comfort. And if it makes me a flabby, weak person who can't take care of myself, so be it. We're at that point right now where it's a lot of weak men. But that's why I say Hydra won, man. Hydra.
Yeah.
They won.
Absolutely. And don't get me into the healthy at every size thing. I'll eat my shit. I'll go proper 4chan/fit. But Ronald Reagan, and honestly, I don't think he was a good Republican president. I think he was like, he's like the 80s Bush. Bush was just a fucking neocon, right? And Reagan was the first neocon, maybe. But
I mean, I think you, sir, go ahead. I'll let you finish. I apologize.
He put that thing out there that freedom is not something that is passed down through the blood or the genes, that it's something that we have to cultivate with every new generation.
It's true.
And at least on that part, I can agree with him.
Yeah, well, I mean, back when he was running for governor of California, he was very libertarian. And when he, when he espoused his conservative views, he said, well, I'm really more of a libertarian. Like, and people were calling, well, isn't that just a popular phrase to make it sound more palatable? No, basically, I believe in small government. and he ended up being president of the United States. And I believe in, keep government out of my life, out of my pocketbook, that kind of thing. So he did have that mindset, but the problem is you get into that position. It's the same thing that Trump's going through. He gets to the position of being president, and there's already an infrastructure and a system in place that you have to fight against. And they've been fighting him on trying to make changes his whole way along. And it's the same thing for Reagan. Eventually, you got to pick your battles. You got to go, what hill do I want to die on for this sort of stuff? So you have to make concessions here and there. And I mean, in my mind, Trump's done a pretty good job. I'd like to see some arrests for, Comey and Strzok and that sort of thing. But I mean, after what's come out recently, but I mean, we can do that in a whole other video if you want. That's a big topic a subject to talk about with regards to, the cases, the charges being dropped against Flynn and the revelations coming out about how the FBI acted.
Me listening, but I'll definitely be part of that stream if you let me.
We should probably end the stream soon though, because we're coming up on an hour 40 minutes now, I think. And there is something else I wanted to talk about.
Go for it.
That I mentioned in my car video of the other day. Game channel. I think I might want to do a game channel, and I don't know if you guys. I've got how many people watching right now? We've got 7 watching now. Oh, we dropped. Oh well.
It doesn't matter. You cranked it up to 11, my boy.
Was it 11 at one point? Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
Cool. Very cool. But yeah, I want to do a game channel. As I mentioned in my other video, it's not going to be me playing video games because that would just be sad and pathetic, and it would just bore people to tears. I want to do like a game channel where I have a setup similar to what I'm doing here with myself and a couple of other people playing remotely, role-playing games, board games, that kind of stuff. And if it's something you guys think might be worth doing, let me know. Put it in the comments section. Leave a note. And then if you have ideas for a name for the channel, I could just call it Craig Bragg Gaming, but that's pretty uninspired. I want something a little bit more creative. But yeah, I think it's something I'd like to do. And I'd like to know what you guys think. And if you have any suggestions for format or types of games that I should run. I was thinking of doing exclusively role-playing games and just change it up every couple of weeks, right? I recently got one called Kids on Bikes, which is a few years old, but I'm really interested in playing that soon. And but I'd love to hear your thoughts, folks. And I guess maybe I should look at the chat and see if anybody's saying anything. But shilled out, bro. Oh, will this shill out? Oh, that's old.
Yeah, six put us out there. He's got more reach than me, and we benefited greatly from his input, from his shill.
Appreciate that, Six. I know you're not there anymore, but if you watch this later, thanks for all the work you do.
And game channel, yeah, of course. Do it on this channel. Do it on a fresh channel. People watch those things.
They do, yeah.
Look at that dude Magog of Morscar.
Yeah.
All he does is fucking RPGs online, right?
You know what?
Now, granted, he's really good. He's really good at that.
Yeah.
But there's room for that.
Cool. All right. I'll give it a go. But other than that, I think it may be time to call it a night.
Yep.
I appreciate everybody for stopping by and watching the video and listening to his rant. Play horror games, says Ray D. Okay, definitely. Well, Kids on Bikes is like a rules light RPG that focuses on horror. It's kind of like if Stranger Things was a game.
I was going to say Stranger Things. Yeah.
So I might try that. But Irving, let people know where they can find you.
I'm Irving Twin. I'm the only Irving Twin on the internet. Search my name. You're going to find my YouTube channel. And you can meet me there. If you don't meet me there, you meet me here. Because I stream with this guy. He's on my channel. I'm on his. We're trading back and forth, apparently, the Ammunation episode list. So find us, guys.
All right, I'll put a link to your channel in the comments there, so people in the chat can see it. And I'm Craig Bragg. You can find me right here on this channel, on BitChute too. My channel, what do you call it? My videos get uploaded ultimately to that as well. On Twitter, you can find me at BraggCD, and you can hit me up there. And thank you all for watching. Like, share, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff. Let us grow. And thanks once again. Have a great night, folks.
Hail Sigmar.